Great. So now we're going to be jumping into the portion now where Vivek is going to be telling us a little bit about QuestionPro and what can we all expect? What can you guys expect from QuestionPro? Some different announcements here. So for those who don't know, Vivek Bhaskaran is the founder and CEO of QuestionPro. In addition to QuestionPro, he's also a serial entrepreneur, having been involved in starting up other companies like IdeaScale, TryMyUI, amongst others. I'm sure he'll tell you more about his journey in the tech space during the presentation, but what he might not say is besides family, motorcycles and hustling are two of his favorite things that drive him every day. So without further ado, Vivek, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan, for that. Yeah, talking about motorcycles, when I have two daughters, when my daughters came online, I guess my wife told me like, either you have the motorcycles or we have the kids. So I had to give up on my motorcycle dreams. So thank you, Dan. Thanks so much. I'm super excited to kickstart it today. We have a packed day today, as you guys have been hearing Crystal and Dan talk about this kind of event. We host this thing twice a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. The fall one's the big one, I guess. And obviously due to COVID, we are still doing everything remotely. Hopefully this fall we'll do it in Austin, and we can kickstart this from a physical perspective. Just really, before we jump in, really a little bit about myself. I was born and brought up in India. I went to Russia for a couple of years. Not sure what I did over there exactly, except drink a lot of vodka maybe. Then I came to the States to study. I went to Brigham Young University in Provo, then lived in Seattle for about 10 years, lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for another 10 years, and now I'm in Austin. That's a little bit about myself. The company itself, we started QuestionPro back in 2005. So clearly we've been around for a while now. And one of the things that I'm super proud of as a company, we are fairly global. As you can see, we have, even our customers are global. We have people from Nigeria and, Abu Dhabi and, South America, everywhere. So I think from that perspective, we have offices in Mexico, in Merida, Mexico, and even Mexico City, and Germany and Berlin, Dubai, India, obviously, and we're going to open up an office in Australia also this year to service the APAC market. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, we've kind of grown fairly well over the last, many years, I guess. And the other thing, obviously, we're proud of is, we answer, I think we've answered like 10 billion questions. We do about 8 million responses per week is what we are doing across the entire platform. We have, not only do we have offices, we also have data centers in these markets, partly because of data residency, GDPR, CCPA, privacy regulations in terms of data collection, throughout the world, realistically. So today, I'm going to jump right into it. Today, I want to talk about, obviously, a lot of things are happening from a platform perspective, from a product perspective, and from the market perspective, realistically. And I want to talk about three things that we are in the throes of launching. We are kind of developing it as we speak, and we will launch it in the next month or so. That I think are transformative, exciting, and interesting. And just to step back, our business is divided into three categories. We look at research and insights as one bucket, where we are typically servicing insights teams of companies from Epic Games to Riot Games to Zynga and Liberty Mutual and so on and so forth. And then we have a customer experience business that we are typically servicing, again, where customers are trying to figure out how to kind of measure, interact, and analyze data from existing customers on an operational basis. And the third component of our business, obviously, is employee experience that, again, measures and analyzes data from experience of some employees from that perspective, really. So for each of these three verticals, we are launching at least one new tool in the next couple of months. And I would like to kind of, obviously take about 10 or 15 minutes and walk you guys through what we are trying to launch and why we are trying to do it. And that hopefully gives you some perspective. So I'll start off with Insights Desk. This is our kind of platform for kind of managing insights within an organization. So if you think about it, and we've talked to a lot of our customers, and there are one or two things that a lot of customers are doing in terms of collecting insights, either through surveys or focus groups. A lot of different ways people collect data for kind of making decisions. and that is typically stored in anywhere between a PowerPoint deck to a SharePoint file to a Google Drive, realistically. And so we want to kind of propose an idea of an organized model for collecting insights, tagging insights, as you can see on the screenshot over there. Then, once you collect it, organize it, tag it, then it's searchable, not only by yourself, but searchable by other people in the organization. So we call it obviously democratizing the concept of, collecting insights, and not only just collecting the data and storing it internally, but also exposing the data that you collect and the insights that you're gathering effectively. So it's kind of a part project management tool, part knowledge management tool. So it's kind of like the other side of project management is really knowledge management and democratizing and kind of giving access to the data effectively. The key thing that we wanted to do is we are going to integrate our platform, this Insights Desk platform, obviously with QuestionPro, but also with other research tools like Trauma UI, which is a usability testing platform that competes with UserZoom and user testing, Hub UX, which is run by Jim in Brazil. That's effectively a sourcing platform for qualitative research. So these are the different tools. These are a couple of tools that we've identified up front in terms of kind of integrating with them. So it's not only just a project management tool, but kind of like a connection point to other kind of actual practical research tools to kind of again to have the data flow go back and forth seamlessly. And the final point to this tool really is we strongly believe in kind of communication. So obviously this is 2021, everybody's remote. It's going to be natively integrated with Slack and Teams. So everything that you do inside this. So if you're using Slack for internal communication and you want to know what the status of a particular project is, you can find that out within Slack. You don't have to go out of there and come back to somewhere. Same thing, obviously, same thing to do with Teams, really. So it's bidirectional communication from kind of the project management tool and Slack and Teams, so that everybody in the team is aware of who's doing what at any particular time. If you have a team of researchers, obviously doing 10 or 20 or 50 projects in a given month, effectively. So that's kind of those are the kind of objectives that we want to kind of attack and get. And here's some kind of quick screenshots. We believe that there'll be a kind of a portal where not only can you can as a researcher can go and mine the data, but also that portal can be exposed. Components of that portal can be exposed to other members like product managers and developers and researchers, other folks who are even business line of business managers, to kind of say like, hey, I want to understand what kind of research we've done in the last 6 months, 3 months, effectively. So that's kind of what is happening, and you can see kind of an example over here. You can see like different things that are happening over here. These are the one of the things that we want to create is a central repository of information that is out there. As part of this, we'll also collect a lot of analytical data in terms of the project management itself. So if you're spending money on sample, we'll have, we can track the amount of money that, on a per project level we are spending on sample and so on. So these are interesting data points that most teams are kind of doing it on either on an ad hoc kind of spreadsheet level, but we want to organize it in a way that we can map this out and we can obviously deliver some insights at an aggregate level effectively. That's about Insights Desk. The next kind of product that we're launching is in the CX space, is around reputation management. So obviously in the CX space, we do a ton of kind of data collection on a solicited basis, right? So through surveys, every time something happens, every time a transaction happens, we send out a survey. If somebody buys a car, somebody does a dealership service, we send out surveys, we collect data, and we kind of organize that data and share it with stakeholders, analyze it. But we also want to go beyond that. We want to go into kind of what we call unsolicited data, which is social data that's already lying out there. And these are kind of all over the map, everything from Yelp reviews to Google reviews inside Google Maps to Bing and Apple Maps, as well as for tech platforms like G2 and Captura and TrustRadius. There's a whole bunch of platforms for technology companies that folks leave public reviews on. So we partnered with a company called Review Trackers. And so we're going to bring all that data from a brand perspective and from a location perspective, two main drivers. One is a brand kind of thing, which is like, okay, especially for software companies and tech companies, it's really brand, which is online. And then for physical kind of products, it is around kind of locations, right? So if you have a location, if you have dealerships, every single dealership in Canada for a particular brand can be monitored, and that data can be pulled in along with the solicited data. So we believe that the marrying of the solicited feedback as well as the unsolicited feedback together is kind of where a lot of insights lie, and not only insights, but also kind of obviously these things drive revenue. As you can see, like almost every search, people, we are all on Amazon today. We start looking, we start shopping. Reviews become the primary vector as well as a primary, frankly, a decision factor in terms of how many reviews a particular product has, how good are the reviews, starts kind of orienting from kind of awareness to kind of purchase intent. Really, that shift from awareness to purchase intent comes in partly through the review model, effectively. So being able to respond and kind of solicit, respond, and react to public conversations about your brand, about your product, about your location, we believe that's going to be obviously critically important as from a pure economic perspective, realistically. So these are a couple of quick kind of screenshots about how things are going to look from a, this is targeting a location. So you can see all the locations and you can set it up where, you can drive all the locations, collect all the data for all the locations, have different managers for different locations that they are supposed to review, kind of whole workflow process associated with this. Not only going to obviously, get all the data, but you can also respond to it, because that's what I think, we believe that's what customers are looking for. Is not only like, if somebody gives you a bad review, are you responding? Is the local manager responding to it? Is the store manager / branch manager / folks at the ground level, are they responding? Are they listening? And are they reacting to it? So that ability to do that and streamline that at an aggregate level is what we plan on doing. Here are a couple quick examples. We've kind of piloted this with a couple of our team members in Germany, and we are kind of like rolling this out. It'll be rolled out in Germany first. At least that's the team that's kind of piloting this project first, and then it'll be rolled out to everywhere effectively. So that's about the CX side, and then the last thing I want to talk about is our a new product, or I wouldn't say it's a new product. It's kind of a pretty interesting extension to our kind of workforce platform. It's an extension to our leadership, to our 360 platform, realistically. And so one thing that I want to jump in, obviously this last year, we've all seen things have changed. We're all running events, digitally, and changes in the air. Let's put it that way. Like even right now, we are grappling. At least we as a company, I can tell you, I'm grappling between, hey, do we open up the office? Do we open up? It's a hybrid model, or is it do I have to tell everybody that they have to show up to work, or do I have to show up and anybody who wants to show up to work will show up to work effectively? And so. And part of this is the leaders have to change their approach, right? So think about it, like in terms of as leaders, we have to figure out, you have to listen and react. And not only do we have to listen and react, we also need to kind of understand how people are perceiving us. So that's part of the 360 platform where we help leaders understand how people are perceiving us. So, the 360 platform allows leaders to kind of listen as well as kind of react on a real-time basis. So these are kind of, this is kind of it's a fairly detailed slide, but so we for the leadership, we not only are we kind of collecting data on a kind of individual level about what leaders should do and what leaders should not do from peer stakeholders, managers, everybody around you, but also we are understanding the priorities. That's kind of the important part that we're adding to the mix realistically. So earlier on, most surveys, they collect, hey, should we do this or should we do that? But not only should we do this or should we do that, but also what should we do more of, what should we do less of? So there's a prioritization model that's been added onto the platform. And we did it largely with a partnership with another company called Optum 360 that allows us to kind of not only kind of do, get this kind of prioritization, the scoring model, but also the prioritization model on top of that. So what the end result of that really is a kind of a definitive guide on a per individual leader basis. Like here are the things you really need to think about. There are lots of things we need to think about. We all get feedback all day long. There are tons of feedback we get, but if there is no priority built into it, then it's kind of generally, it's very difficult to act on it, right? So if we're going to have not only a scoring model, but also a priority model that allows us to kind of act on like, hey, these are the most important priorities this quarter that our peers, that my peers, that my reports, the folks around me are telling me that I should do. That gives me very kind of practical, actionable intelligence, actionable way of, well, okay, I get it. This is the 3 things that I need to do, not the 14 things that I should, think about. I mean, obviously nobody can do 14 different things. It's really 2 or 3 things that can be done at any point of time. So that's something that we're going to add to this mix effectively. And that's it. Hopefully I covered a bunch of things. Any questions, comments? Let's see if I'm on time. Okay, I'm on time. So I have like 10, 15 minutes for questions. I don't want to take too much rattling away. So any questions that came up, Dan?
Yeah, there were definitely some questions that are coming up. And I think you'll have some because people want to hear more about what we're doing with some of these different features and functionality. The first one was around the Insights desk. This came from an anonymous person at Amazon. What are some unique ways that you're categorizing or tagging historical data, and how are you thinking about that? Is there something that you're doing on Insights desk that thinking about it differently than other platforms, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are going to create effectively a tagging model that users can customize. So depending upon how users customize, you can create your own set of tag groups and tags, and you can just customize them effectively. And that's how we believe that will be different. So it's not a pre-described structure of tagging. So I think every business is different. Some of them think about customers as small, medium, large customers. Then they have product line ways of thinking about it. Then they have business lines. So there are different things that happen, and so we are going to kind of like allow a very flexible kind of taxonomy to happen. So that's how we we believe that's how we've kind of positioned it so far. So I think that'll be super helpful.
Got it. Makes sense. And then another question around Insights Desk and the CX reputation. So Laura Bright asked, she was wondering how the Insights Desk and CX reputation, do they intersect or overlap, or how can brands benefit? Both seem powerful on their own, but wondering about multipliers, if there's some combination between the two.
I mean, at this point, we don't. At this point, we are keeping them separate. To be honest with you, we kind of see the Insights Desk as a kind of like an internal tool, and like a tool that the company, not only internal, the Insights team, but the company at large can use realistically. There's arguments, obviously, like you can data coming in from, let's say, the reputation score should be fed into the Insights Desk realistically. So there are kind of like obvious kind of channels, if you will, that can be kind of imagined as we go along. So like data coming in from different sources that that gets fed into. So we see a human kind of intervention over here. I don't believe it's going to be fully automated, where look, you got some insights from, let's say, the reputation score, and you realize like, hey, we are doing something wrong or we're doing something right, and you feed that into the Insights Desk platform, and that just gets disseminated. That gets kind of amplified and pushed out to the larger consumer base, like to your company. Again, to be clear, we see Insights Desk as a platform for use within the company effectively, so that other folks outside the insights and research team have access to interesting data that comes out of the insights team. So it's really kind of making sure that all the work that most insights professionals are putting into creating decision-making factors are actually pushed out, as opposed to, I mean, obviously they're pushed out today. It's not to say that they're not, but we believe that, kind of historical data, for example, is very difficult to get. Hey, I've had conversations with customers. It's like, hey, we don't know when the last time we did a project on this particular product. Well, it's in some folder, in some email somewhere. We know we did it, but it is not organized enough. It is not searchable. It is not indexed. It's not easily accessible to say, hey, when's the last time we did, a research project on this particular topic? Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, yeah, well, I know we did it, but we don't know how to get access to it, or the person who did it is now no longer with the company. So it's kind of like that's a lot of, in my mind at least, it's a lot of wastage. And so we want to prevent that wastage so that we have an organized way of doing this. Got it.
Yep. I think that answers the question. Makes sense. And then we had Steve Smith ask something around reputation management. Well, what's sort of the textbook use case, and how will you marry that with traditional CX that we're doing on our platform?
So textbooks use case is really, let's take dealerships, for example, car dealerships, right? So car dealerships, that are, in Canada, Mitsubishi Canada has 75 and 95 car dealerships. And what we want to find out is how are those dealerships doing vis-a-vis each other, and making sure that they're all providing the brand service, that the brand everybody's delivering on the brand promise, really. So that would be a use case of like monitoring all those 95 dealerships from an aggregator perspective, from an outside perspective, and then making sure that there are no negative reviews, or if there are negative reviews, they're immediately addressed within, let's say, 24 hours, 48 hours, and these kind of brand guidelines can be put in play. So like, look, we know that reviews are important. We know reviews drive performance, drive revenue. And so we can, a use case would be to say like, look, we need to make sure that every single review is responded within X number of days. And frankly, a manager needs to pick up the phone and call them and have a workflow around it. We think that the hospitality industry is pretty well advanced. They already do this. A lot of people do it in hospitality. Because everybody's realized in hospitality, obviously notwithstanding COVID, TripAdvisor and these kind of areas, are fundamental drivers of the business. And so, pretty much every single person in the market does it in hospitality. We want to bring it to other markets also.
Got it. That makes sense. Another question came up around the insights desk, and really that it's a tool for internal customers, but how do you make sure that they don't just do basic queries or kind of getting into meatier insights? Is there a way that we're thinking about that, maybe to establish a framework or different analytical queries? I know that you mentioned that this is me going off the cuff a little bit, but I know you mentioned that we can do sort of the framework and the different projects and so forth, but is there a way to ensure that like, hey, this is how we conduct research, these are some of the ways that you should be positioning the research that you're doing?
Yeah, once we have a systematic way of managing all the research, our kind of vision is to kind of incorporate some, longitudinal data into the platform also. So if you're doing, there's an interesting use case we are looking at right now where one of our customers is doing longitudinal data using MaxDiff. So you're doing a bunch of MaxDiff studies every month. And then you have obviously a bunch of claims that are being tested on the MaxDiff process, right? So, but they're all individual projects. So every month they run a survey and then collect data and then dig the analysis. And as we organize ourselves, so now you could imagine where you have MaxDiff data across 20 projects over 20 quarters or 20 months. And then you can see kind of the claims being tested going up or down across on an aggregator level, really. So those are kind of the scenarios that get unlocked. Once you start organizing the data in a particular, frankly, in a construct that is organizable, really. Instead of having 15 different surveys and 15 different folders and so on and so forth, the data itself has to be organized. And this is our kind of like, we believe that like having, getting into a platform that has the data organized will allow us to unlock those scenarios as we go forward.
Mm-hmm. Nice. We're getting comments that people are loving that, so. That's perfect. And then another question came up around employee engagement and obviously people may be going back to work, there might be some hybrid approach. This is a little bit of a larger question, but employee engagement and return to work and post-COVID, can what we're introducing with Workforce sort of help manage that, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think Salesforce said that, like at Salesforce, they were doing pulse surveys. I think understanding employee sentiment right now obviously is hugely important, and Sonia will talk about it later on down the road. Understanding employee sentiment is hugely important right now, and the 360 platform, not only it's about employees but also about the leaders. So that's the point that we are making, is like, okay, we know understanding employee sentiment is important, but also understanding leadership, giving tools for leaders to enable them to do a better job is also equally important for that matter. And so that's why we are investing so heavily on our 360 platform and including the prioritization model. So that's kind of this thinking and relevance behind that.
Got it. And then a little more of a tongue-in-cheek question. Someone asked what your favorite Russian vodka is.
I've not had vodka in a long time in my Russian vodka. So, I mean, I think it was too cheap. I was a student there. I was a cheap Indian student there. So I think Stolitsnaya was the only thing I could afford. I think if I remember correctly, it was like $1.50 a bottle. So it's pretty cheap actually. So, but that's all I could afford. So I don't have fancy vodka. It's the cheapest vodka as possible is what I bought. So, that's what cheap students do. So
hey. You get the most bang for your buck, right? So
that's the most bang for my buck. Exactly.
Okay. One final question, Viv. This was a little bit more of a broad question, but I think you'll be able to handle it. And this one, I'm just trying to get to it here. Okay. This is from John, who asked kind of this broad question. How can researchers deal with decreasing trust of consumers with polling and the news media in general? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously that's a challenge for all of us in terms of trust in like too much. Everybody claims whatever. I think I think building trust through sources, like, for example, I really like, the Center for American Politics. There are a couple of kind of institutions that have kind of, describe their methodology and stick to their game plan. So I think as internal researchers, if we can, make a case and point of view around how we're doing the research, what is our model, and what are our sources, and make it clear, I think that'll build trust with everybody. And I mean, I think declining trust in online media in general is, it's a broad trend. I mean, obviously. So I'm not sure that, the best I think I can think of is, coming up with like what the source of the data is. And Tim talks a lot about it in terms of quality of data, where you're getting your sample, how you're getting the sample. So all those things start mattering in terms of, developing, you're going to make a big decision based on data. What is the source of that data? And explaining that source of data and then relying on that source of data is kind of like, obviously it's important, not only from a data quality perspective and everything else, but, frankly, a decisioning perspective. And from at the end of the day, like, convincing somebody from a PR perspective. So either PR or even internal decisioning criteria. So if you're going to go present to the board about, hey, like, look, we did this research, here's what we think, you gotta stand behind that. And the key kind of element over there is sample and source, and where are you getting the sample and where are you getting the source is frankly, it's a super important element to the conversation. And if that is shaky, then everything else is kind of generally, frankly, irrelevant at the end of the day.
Right. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And we do talk a lot about that, the sample, where you're getting it from, making sure that it's from these reputable sources. I think one more question here, Viv, this comes around CX, and consumers massively shifted to digital commerce during COVID. What does this mean for CX professionals going forward? Like, what is the CX of the future, I guess? So kind of a couple different questions there, but I think you can handle it.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, like, I think somebody told me, like, every company is a digital company today. Simply put, like, even, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're not fully digital, then it's going to be tough to play the game. And that's why you see, SaaS and tech companies getting valued, frankly, at that rate, is simply because, like, it's not just like tech companies are using other tech platforms. Every company has become fully 100% digital. So if that's the case, then, as a CX professional, as you think about CX, you think of a digital first strategy realistically. Okay, what can we do to make life easier? And these are kind of different elements from an interaction perspective, getting notified when your pizza is done and all that stuff. I mean, all the stuff that you're seeing with the COVID, with the COVID coming in. So I think the opportunity is like, pivoting to a kind of a digital only / mobile only digital first strategy would not be a bad idea. And then allocating resources to figure out, like, what within that ecosystem do we need to kind of really address? Is it, service delivery? Is it, just a text message when your car is done, or, for pickup, and so on and so forth. So all those things are those are the experience that are going to shift. Instead of making phone calls, so obviously it's not a text message. I think most consumers are more comfortable receiving a text message regarding a service option than a phone call, effectively, right? A phone call is too intrusive. disrupts the flow. Text message obviously does not do that. And we could go one step further, like say, like, hey, do we integrate with Slack, or do we integrate with Teams? And especially in a B2B context. So those are the experience. Those are the models that can be at least explored from a CX perspective. Those are the models that I think should be explored. And then which one of those, obviously there are thousands of things we could do. Which one of those are more relevant, more applicable, more effective? Those are the conversations. Those are the things that we can glean from, depending upon the scenario.
Great. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think with that, Viv, we can wrap it up. So appreciate all of your insights. I know that there were some comments and things. If you want to know more about any of the things that Viv mentioned, feel free to reach out to us. We're just an email or phone call or text message away. So thanks, Viv.
All right. Thank you so much, guys.